Breaking news tonight, tensions between the United States and Iran are rapidly escalating again, raising fears that the Middle East could return to a wider conflict. The United States has launched a fresh round of strikes against Iranian targets while reimposing a naval blockade on ports across the country. American military officials say the latest operations are intended to weaken Iranian capabilities allegedly used to threaten commercial shipping through the strategic Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz remains one of the world's most important energy routes, carrying a significant share of global oil and natural gas trade. Iran has again moved to restrict traffic through the waterway, creating new uncertainty for shipping companies, energy markets, and governments around the world. Tehran has responded to American actions with attacks targeting locations connected to United States forces and regional allies across several Gulf countries. Reports indicate Iranian attacks reached areas in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan, dramatically expanding concerns that the confrontation could spread beyond Iran's borders. Kuwait reported injuries among military personnel and damage to a naval vessel, highlighting the growing regional consequences of the latest exchange of attacks. Iran's Revolutionary Guard has also threatened to disrupt additional energy export corridors if pressure from Washington and its allies continues to intensify. The warning has alarmed global markets because any major disruption to Middle Eastern energy exports could potentially push oil prices higher and increase inflation. President Donald Trump has warned Iran that additional pressure could follow unless negotiations resume and tensions surrounding regional shipping routes begin to ease. However, Iran says recent military actions have severely damaged the temporary diplomatic understanding that was supposed to create space for further peace negotiations. The fragile agreement reached last month had temporarily reduced hostilities, but renewed clashes around the Strait of Hormuz have quickly weakened hopes for stability. American officials argue that freedom of navigation must be protected, while Iranian leaders continue asserting their authority and strategic influence over nearby waterways. This disagreement has transformed the Strait of Hormuz into a major flashpoint with consequences reaching far beyond the United States, Iran, and the Middle East. Energy traders are closely monitoring every development, as Brent crude prices have faced renewed upward pressure amid fears about future oil shipments and supply disruptions. For American families, a prolonged crisis could eventually affect gasoline prices, transportation expenses, and broader consumer costs if global energy markets remain unstable. The confrontation is also creating serious diplomatic challenges for Gulf countries, many of which host American forces while trying to protect their own economic interests. Regional governments are now facing difficult decisions as attacks, interceptions, and military warnings increase the risk of accidental escalation or further retaliation. Analysts fear the conflict could threaten other strategic waterways if Iranian-aligned groups become involved and pressure expands toward important Red Sea shipping routes. Such a development could create additional problems for international trade, forcing commercial vessels to reconsider routes while insurers and shipping companies reassess risks. Meanwhile, Washington continues increasing economic pressure, with the United States Treasury taking additional action involving Iranian funds and broader financial restrictions. Despite the growing military confrontation, international attention remains focused on whether diplomacy can return before the situation develops into an even larger regional crisis. The biggest question tonight is whether Washington and Tehran still have enough political space to restart negotiations after days of renewed military action. Any new escalation could produce consequences for global markets, regional security, international shipping, and millions of civilians already facing uncertainty across the region. American leaders are under growing pressure to explain the long-term strategy, especially as voters watch the economic and security consequences of continued Middle East involvement. Iran, meanwhile, appears determined to resist the renewed blockade, warning that regional energy exports could face further disruption if pressure against Tehran continues. The coming days may prove critical, as military decisions from Washington and Tehran could determine whether tensions stabilize or move toward an even broader confrontation. For now, the Strait of Hormuz remains at the center of the crisis, with global governments closely watching shipping movements, energy prices, and diplomatic developments.